The court is now back in session. And the chamber would like to hand the floor to the lead co-lawyers for civil parties to continue putting further questions to witness Kang Kai-il alias Deutsch. And Mr. Deutsch, please adjust your seat so that you can also look at the bench and not to direct yourself through the lead co-lawyer. You may shift your position when you respond a little bit, but basically you should face the bench. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Witness, for purposes of clarification, I would like to place on the screen the first list on the file or in the file that was given to you, and it is document E3/9853, and it contains the name of Ross Sarin we spoke about a while ago. That is entry number 6. So, witness, I am looking at document E3/9853. If you would allow me, Mr. President, may I have this document placed on the screen?
Donc voilà, vous, Monsieur le témoin.
Witness, you can look at the hard copy before you or look at the screen. And you would see the list with entry number 6 corresponding to the husband of the civil party I referred to a while ago. So you can see the name in Khmer. Does that name ring a bell, or it still doesn't mean anything to you?
Rouge sur votre écran.
It is a name that is circled in red on your screen.
E3 bar.
E3/9853.
Court officer, could you assist the witness? And actually it is rather difficult to see it on screen since it's a little bit blurred.
Je voulais juste que vous puissiez vérifier.
I would like you to cross-check the manner in which the name is spelled in Khmer so that we shouldn't have a mix-up in the names, since you have some difficulty finding the list.
Yes, I have located the relevant part. Allow me to say that I do not recognize the name, and on the title of this list is that those people were being interrogated, but I am not familiar with this person and I do not know about his confession.
Je vous remercie. C'est là.
Thank you. That is the information I wanted you to provide. We'll look at another case now. Witness, I would like us to look at the case of two Americans who were imprisoned at S21.
Please hold on, the lead co-lawyer. The Chamber would like to note that we noticed that Counsel Derry Chen is here this afternoon and Counsel Copper is absent. So this is for the proper record of the transcripts in relation to the absence of Counsel Copper, and she is replaced by Dorian Chen. You may proceed, lead co-lawyer.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Witness, I would like us to look at another case. That is the case of Michael Scott G. And I would like to have placed on the screen document E3/1553. Let me point out for the record that that person is mentioned in number 12,720 on the list of co-investigating judges. So, with your leave, Mr. President, perhaps E3/1553 could be placed on the screen, and I'll give the ERNs in the three languages: 000888752 in Khmer, 011878445 in French, 01236389 in English.
Si on peut voir le document.
If we can look at the document on the screen. Mr. Witness, the brother of that person is called Timothy Stagdi, was a civil party following the death of his brother at S21. And for the parties, let me quote his civil party application E3/472. On the document, which is placed on the screen, we find that that person, Michael Scott Dees, entered S21 on the 26th of November 1978, and that he came from Kampong Sam, and in the column position we find it's indicated Hawaii, and that is number 2 on the list, and position number 1 is for the person who was arrested off the shores of Kampong Sam, and that is Mr. Edward Delancey. These are two American nationals who were arrested at Kampong Sam and sent to S21. Are you familiar with this list that is being shown to you today, witness?
Regarding Westerners, in fact, there were 4 Westerners who were brought in through S21. In case 001, through applied as a civil parties in relation to true Westerners, and now we have a case of other true Westerners. I can say that they were interrogated and later on they were smashed per instructions, and to smash here means they were burned with tires, car tires.
Que saviez-vous à l'époque
At the time, what did you know of these two Westerners whose names are on the list? And it is stated that they arrived at S21 on the 26th of November 1978 from Kampong Sam, and in the column labeled position, Hawaii is indicated. Did you know of the existence of those detainees at the time? And do you know why those Westerners were sent to S21 at the time?
The Americans were arrested and detained by the Navy at the coast of Kampong Sam, and later on they were sent from Kampong Sam to Phnom Penh, that is to the Central Committee, and the Central Committee sent them to S21 to be interrogated and later on smashed. They were arrested on the charges of trespassing the territory of Cambodia in order to obtain information. So they were interrogated and then they were smashed, and there was nothing else to deal with.
Je vous remercie. Je voudrais...
Thank you. I would like to read out to you an extract of one of your statements before the co-investigating judges, and it is document E3/1570. It is one of your interviews before the co-investigating judges on the 29th of November 2007. And the ERN in French is 00154209. In English, 00154194, and in Khmer, 00154224. And you refer to the four Westerners you have just referred to, and this is what you stated, free translation, and I quote. As such, the four Westerners who were killed and then burnt upon the orders of Non Chia were close to the intersection of Mao Zedong Boulevard and Street 163. At the time, there was a pond there. That is also where Von Vet, Chai Kim Huo, and Nat were killed.
Claire sur...
In this statement, witness, you state clearly that those Westerners were killed and burned upon the orders of Non Chia. Can you explain to the chamber how you knew that it was Non Chia who ordered that those four Westerners be killed and burnt?
He called me to meet him for work purpose, and that was at the Buddhist school of Sarmarat. There, he told me that the long-nosed people had to be smashed and that they had to be burnt completely. It means that they had to be burned until the ashes remained. And we were not like in Cuba. In Cuba, they retained prisoners, American prisoners, in order to exchange for tractors. And that's what he told me in person when he called me to meet him for work purpose.
Saviez-vous à l'époque...
At the time, did you know why they had to be reduced to ashes? Why did those Westerners have to be killed, to be burnt? Beg your pardon.
I have testified on this point before, but allow me to verify it again. They had to be burned to ashes, so that there was no evidence remained that any Westerner was arrested and smashed by us.
I got you thêm.
And allow me to repeat what he said, that we did not want to follow Cuba, because in Cuba they retained American prisoners in exchange for tractors, but here we had to burn them to ashes, and that was the strict instruction that I had to follow.
Je vous remercie. Quand vous...
Thank you. When you specified the place where those persons were burnt, that is close to the Mao Zedong and Street 163 intersection, you stated that there was a pond at that location. Do you confirm that there was indeed a pond at that location? And was that pond used for disposing of bodies or any other things?
Initially, there were not many concrete houses in Phnom Penh, and there were bushes here and there, and at that location there was a rather large pond. And actually, we also use the pond scenes to film the Vietnamese soldiers that we captured. Westerners were also burned near the pond with car tires, and they were burned to ashes.
Et une question plus logistique.
I have a question regarding logistics as regards that pond. Were waste and excrements thrown into that pond or other ponds close to S21? Is that something you were aware of? Or something you do recall?
Allow me to tell you that there were not many people living in Phnom Penh at the time. A bit to the south, there was a location where officials of the Ministry of Education resided, and then the location was vacant along Mao Zedong. So at that time there was no waste or no excrement lying around. There were only bushes where we could actually hide ourselves behind the bushes to conduct certain activities.
Et pour finir sur...
And to wrap up this line of questioning, was there a system for collecting and transporting human waste at S21? To be very concrete, the excrements of prisoners and other persons at S21, were such excrements transported? And if yes, where were they taken to? Because this is information you had at the time, and you should remember that.
As for staff, they actually had their houses to live in with the proper toilets. Regarding the rest of prisoners, I had no idea where they dispose of. And from the sketch of I-21 location, there was an open sewage canal lying from the north to the south direction, and I had no idea whether the vessel was disposed of through that open sewage canal.
Je vous remercie, c'est très clair.
Thank you. That is very clear. I'd like to put questions to you now regarding a number of events that occurred at S21. Events that some of the witnesses who came after you spoke about. I would like you to talk about those events if you are aware of them. I would like to start with an event that may have involved a nurse at S21, and I would request my colleague to pronounce the name of that person so that there shouldn't be any problem understanding it. And I would like to ask you witness to say whether you confirm the presence of that witness, that nurse at S21. My colleague will pronounce that name now.
Sương.
The medic name is Sương. Thank you. Regarding S21 medics, there was none named Sương. There was a military commander who was brought to S21 in late 1975, and he was actually a member of the party center already. And that was the only Sương that I know, and I do not know any medic by that name.
Je vais vous citer.
I'll read out to you a passage from Lac Min's testimony. He testified before you on the same seat on the 26th of April 2016. So I'm quoting from the transcript, which is a draft. And the time is slightly before 11 hours 5 and 14 as regards the first question, and then I'll read out an extract of what Lac Min stated regarding an incident that may have involved a nurse called Sun. I'll start by quoting the question that was put by Honorable Judge Fens to enable you to understand the context of Lac Min's answer. Question by Judge Fens. Are you aware of an incident during which a guard or an interrogator at S21 sexually assaulted a detainee and was subsequently punished by the penitential authorities? And Lac Min answers as follows. People were punished. Sun, a nurse, accused of moral misconduct with a patient, was punished. The next question asked by the judge was as follows, and I quote, "If I properly understood you, you witnessed 2 incidents of sexual assault against detainees." And Lac Min answers as follows. There were initially 2 cases, and in addition to that, there was the case of the nurse. End of quote. Free translation. Witness, having heard me read out to you an extract of Lakmin's testimony. Does this refresh your memory? And do you recall any act of sexual misconduct and assault involving the nurse whose name we've just given to you?
Allow me to speak a little bit about large Mian. And I don't know whether I speak about the large man that I know, because the large man that I know was an interrogator at S21, and he testified before this chamber as a former S21 staff in order to incriminate me. And through the end of the co-prosecutor's questioning, the co-prosecutor showed a document with a large man's signature on it, and suddenly he denies that it was not his signature. And if you refer to the same large man, then this is something for you to consider, whether there was a real large man who was a former staff of S21. On the issue of sexual rape at S21, I only knew one case, that there was a young man who actually sexually raped my former teacher, and that was related to a mistake made during the interrogation process. I believe there were not many instances of sexual rape at S21. Secondly, I do not know whether large man that you refer to was the actual large man who was my former staff at S21, or a large man who actually came to testify before this chamber.
Je vous remercie, monsieur.
Thank you, witness. I was referring to a former S21 interrogator who came to testify before this court last month. So we're indeed talking of one of the interrogators at S21. I'll quote or refer to a number of other cases, and I'll ask you whether you are aware of those incidents or not. Lakmin, in the same testimony on the 26th of April 2016, referred to another case. And we are still talking of the draft transcript of the 26th of April 2016, slightly before 10 hours 44:16. And Lakmin states as follows. I recall that a messenger had brought the prisoner to the detention cell at the end of the interrogation. When they got to the staircase, the messenger raped the prisoner on the staircase. Question. So if I understand correctly, you witnessed that incident. Answer. I did not witness it. I did not witness it with my own eyes, but the staff at the center had issued instructions to the persons working inside the detention facility not to follow the example of that messenger. End of quote. Free translation. Are you aware of the raping of a prisoner on the staircase, and that person was raped by a messenger? Were you aware of that during that period?
I do not believe it was that easy to sexually rape a woman in the open. If there is the case, that person would be beheaded. And And here in reference to a statement that a guard actually walked a female prisoner back to the cell and then sexually raped her at the staircase, that is beyond my belief. And maybe that's the only case that this particular individual testified regarding that event. I actually suspect that that person, large man, was the real large man who came to testify here in case 001 in order to incriminate me. But as I said, about the conclusion of the questioning by the co-prosecutor, the prosecutor showed him the signature and he denies that it was his signature. So here everything is in the open for your consideration.
Thank you, witness, for this clarification. Now I would like to continue with this list, and I would like to refer now to another witness who preceded you here in this very same courtroom, Mr. Him Hoi, who came to testify before the chamber on the 4th of May 2016. And we're still speaking here about a draft transcript that I'll be referring to. And Him Hoi speaks about another event at 2:34:43 in the afternoon, and he says, a young guard raped a female prisoner. This was a moral offense. He was arrested and detained and executed. Free translation. So question, do you remember the name of this young guard? Answer, I didn't know this guard very well. He was working inside under the supervision of Peng. Question. So then how did you learn about this incident? Answer. The security agents from inside and Peng told me, who was standing guard outside. I was told that a guard had raped a female prisoner and that he had been arrested and detained. Free translation. So, do you have any comments to make regarding this event? Were you aware of this happening back then?
Before I answer, I would like to clarify to you that Hui was the secretary of the company within the S21, and Peng was superior to Hui. So if Peng witnessed it, Peng would report it to Ho because Ho was his supervisor. So according to the procedure at that time, the report must be made to Ho, not to me. So this is my observation that I would like to make. And I do not wish to make any other further comment beside that.
Merci.
Thank you for these comments. Him Hoi on 4 May 2016 spoke about another event. And I'm referring here to the transcript again, a little bit before 14:38:08 in the afternoon. And he said the following, and I will quote free translation, at S21, based on my recollection, a member of the staff was arrested and detained, but the cell wasn't well locked. The guard saw him escape, and he escaped to Vietnam. And Him Hoi answered a question regarding the existence of moral offenses at S21. And he said the following, a little bit after 2:38:08 in the afternoon, the guard was arrested for having committed a moral offense with a female prisoner, and
as regards the victim, she was also arrested and killed. And Him Hui says a little bit later on at 3:02:05 in the afternoon, this person was called Choi. He was a former guard at S-21. He fled the prison and reached Vietnam. He left Vietnam in 1979 and returned to Cambodia and became a policeman, and currently he is deceased. So do you have any comments to make or a comment to make on Him Hui's testimony here?
Talking about the guard who escaped, it was a responsibility of the supervisor who needed to be held responsible for such an escape of his subordinate. And if there was such an escape, this incident would not be hidden from the eyes of Comrade Ho, because Comrade Ho kept very close watch on such a situation.
Thank you for this clarification. Now I'd like to speak to you about the case of a civil party whose history is mentioned in the closing order at paragraph 458. And I'd like to bring up the civil party's written record of interview E3/5602 WRI before the OCIJ. But before I speak about this WRI, I would like to put to you an open question as is recommended here. Did you ever hear about, when you were at S-21, about a rape that allegedly was committed by Chung Paul?
It was not Chum Pao, but it was Chum Paul. Chum Paul was my guard. When I recognized Chum Paul as my combatant, and then there was a story that this Chum Paul raped a woman whose identity I did not recognize. Chum Paul was an innocent man. Frankly speaking, in front of this court, Chum Paul was a guy from my wife's homeland, and then I brought him to S-21. I talked to Sun Sen that I would like to bring a combatant to join S-21 from my homeland. And then Chum Paul became a witness in his capacity, to talk about his capacity as a former guard. And I felt doubtful because Chum Paul I knew was an illiterate person. And in this courtroom, the presiding judge asked about the...
In fact, the president asked Chum Paul about his superior Sao, whether Sao actually asked him to dig a pit. And Sao was my former messenger, and later on I asked Ho to include him in a special zone with Chum Paul. And I asked Paul whether Paul knew me or not. or loved me or not? And he said no. That was surprising because
Moi,
Witness, I must interrupt you because I don't have much time, and I simply wanted to know if you knew about this event. And I would like to quote an excerpt from the WRI of this civil party E3/5602, and she says the following at answer number 1 in all languages. So she speaks about a rape that she was subjected to, and this happened when I was detained at S21. I was taken away and I was locked up in a cell all alone. The guard who was to rape me later would come from time to time to bring me a bit of rice. And about 3 to 4 months later, he raped me. He was part of the S21 staff, and she provides his name at answer 8 in all 3 languages of the WRI. So, do you have any kind of reaction to this event or not?
in order to respond to your question, allow me to finish off my previous response. And after Chunpon, there was another person, Nammon, who said that Paul sexually raped her. And that was the story. So how could I acknowledge the existence of this individual? Because to me, that even is not true, and that is not the fact. That is not what happened. Nammon herself, I do not acknowledge that she was detained at S21 at all. And such event never took place there. And the story was like what I just explained to the chamber.
So, how do you know that things did not happen as Namun tells us?
Who dare to engage in any sexual rape at S21? It was an office with hundreds of prisoners and with several guards with armed, and there were many guards for special prisoners. And who dare to engage in any sexual rape? Nobody.
je vous remercie.
Thank you for this answer, and for the purposes of the record, and in order to explain the situation to you as well, Miss Namun was questioned in this case, case 002, and her account was judged to be sufficiently credible by the OCIJ for her to be admitted as a civil party, as a direct victim of S21. This is why I'm putting questions to you again about this incident. So I would like to speak to you about another event. But before that, I would like to know if you know an interrogator by the name of Toi.
Yes, I know Toi.
Do you know what happened to Toi?
Lorsqu'il a...
When he was an interrogator at S21.
I know that he was a difficult person to complete a task, and he likes to inflict torture on prisoners in order to compete with Camera Pon.
I would like to display on the screen a list that you also have in the blue folder that we gave to you at the beginning of the afternoon. This is list E3/10 460. It's a prisoners list who entered on 3 March 1977, and I would like the witness and the parties to refer to entry number 14. This is a person whose alias is Tuik, who was arrested at S21, and in the column position, it is indicated that he is a combatant, an interrogator combatant at S21. So, Mr. President, if you please allow us to display the list on the screen so that we may all view it.
Donc voilà, vous avez...
So here you see, surrounded in red, entry number 14. And you can see the name, the alias, the position of this person, and the list is called prisoner list who entered on 3 March 1977. So does this list ring a bell? And was Toy arrested at one point in time at S21? Witness, to assist you, you see that there's a little tab, a little colored tab right next to entry 14, and this is E3/10-460. That is the document number. And it's also displayed on the screen if it's easier for you to view it. So did you locate entry number 14?
Court officer, please assist the witness by indicating the relevant section.
C'est la première page du...
It's on the first page of the document, witness, and it's ERN, I should have given it to you, 01160-160. So this is the first page at entry number 14 now.
Est-ce que cette...
Does this number 14 correspond to this Doi you just spoke about? This interrogator who had a hard time completing things, apparently.
Tui is different from Tuj. As for this Tuj, I was not familiar with him. As for Tui that I refer to, Tui was never arrested, and when I fled, he also fled alone.
So what you're telling us is that the Tui who is listed as at entry 14 in this list and who is referred to as a combatant of interrogation in S21, to tell you exactly what I have before me, you're telling me that you do not know this person. Is that so?
Yes, that is correct. I do not know this individual by the name of Tu, but I know one former staff named Tui. Although I do not know everyone, but I did not hear of his name.
Vous ne...
So, you do not necessarily know all of the staff at S21, is that so?
Through my recollection, there were more than 1,000 staff at S21, and I spent most of my time at the house to review those documents and made annotations to my superior. Even for the members of the interrogation unit, I did not know everyone, let alone the guard unit.
Thank you for this clarification. I'd like to refer again to testimonies of people who preceded you here before this courtroom regarding an incident that apparently involved this Toit we've been speaking about. This is an incident that was also covered in your trial in case 001. So let me begin with an excerpt from one of the transcripts in your own case, and this should refresh your memory because you were there present. So this is transcript E3/7463, and this is therefore a transcript from case 001, and I'm going to read out an excerpt. This was at 350 regarding the same topic again. The question was the following: what were you aware of exactly? What happened exactly? And it is Prakan who answers a question put to him by Judge Lavergne. And Prakan says the following: the incident took place at the rear of the house where I was. Tui, who was a close associate of Chan and who lived in a house close to the sewage canal and close to my house, well, the following happened with him. Tui was interrogating a female prisoner, so therefore behind my house, and he raped this woman in that room. And someone saw this happen and reported to Chan about this. Chan arrested him, shackled him in the house. But then Toy jumped onto a banana tree and then onto the ground, and then he was chained again, and he ended up being transferred to the prison. Free translation. So do you have any specific comments to make about this event, witness?
I do not know Comrade Tuj, and that is true. Some people who came to testify here said that Tuj was a messenger of Brother Mom Nai, but I never assigned any messenger to Mom Nai. Only 3 of us had messengers, that is, myself, Comrade Ho, and Comrade Hoi. And Mom Nai was not part of the committee, so he had no messenger. And now appeared Tuj as his messenger. So I do not know about the accounts as told by Prakor regarding the moral misconduct. From what he says, that there seems to be so many moral issues happened at S21. And as I said, I only knew of one account of moral misconduct.
Pour finir.
Now to close off this incident that apparently involved Toy, and to speak about the case that you are aware of, and that involved the wife of your former teacher, I would like to put a last question to you in relation to this list where you saw that an S21 interrogator was arrested at S21. You tell us that you do not know this interrogator. So was it necessary to obtain your approval for an S21 interrogator or staff member to be arrested? Can you tell us what would happen when an S21 staffer was arrested at S21 itself?
An arrest can only be made with authorization from a higher level, that is from Son Sen or Brother Noon. We could report about misconduct or offenses, however, the decision was theirs for the arrest.
When you tell us that we could make reports about moral offenses, but it was up to the higher echelons to order the arrest. So did I understand you well? Can you give us more information about this?
Allow me to clarify that yes, that is correct. That is number one. Any mistake or offense that happened at S21, I had to report it. And then the decision will be made from the upper level whether the person involved has to be arrested or not. And if there was no such decision, then I could decide to transfer that person from one unit to another. As for the reporting regime, everyone reported to Ho, and Ho reported to me. Then I reported to my superior, or I made a phone call to my superior. And usually I made my superior in the afternoon through a phone conversation, that is with Son Sen. As with Brother Noon, I went to see him in person, then I spoke to him. And allow me to open a bracket here. During the conclusion of case 001, Madame Chia Liang, the national co-prosecutor, said that there was a case of moral misconduct that was found at S21. That is when a young personnel actually mistreated a female prisoner, and I acknowledged that. And at that time, I did not believe that it was a sexual rape, but it was a violation of discipline. So, in conclusion, through the research by the chamber and the parties in case 001, the national co-prosecutor only found one case only. As for the case of Namon and Chumpol, they were also part of case 001. However, the matter was not used to incriminate me in relation to sexual misconduct, or to use that matter to blame the CPK policies at S21. That is based on my recollection of the proceedings. So let me conclude that that was the reporting regime that everyone reported to Ho to me, then I would seek authorization or permission or decision from the upper echelon, and only the upper echelon has the authority to decide on the arrest. As for staff at Assignment 1, they had no authority to arrest anyone. In relation to Nat, and there is a surviving document indicating that Nat arrested people without the authorization from the upper level. And I believe such a document exists. And there were probably more than 10 individuals that were arrested by him by his own decision. So, regardless of your position, you had no authority to make arrest unless a decision was made by the general staff. In this case, that is Son Sen, before he was sent to the front battlefield, and later on, it was Brother Noon who had such authority. And besides, no one could make decisions on the arrest. And again, as for the rest of sexual rape, as found out by the National Co-Prosecutor, Madame Chi Liang, there was only one case that existed. President, thank you. It is now convenient to adjourn the proceedings for today, and we will resume it on Monday, 13 June 2016, commencing from 9 o'clock in the morning. For next week proceedings, the chamber continues to hear testimony of witness Kang Gai-il alias Doge. And Mr. Kang Gai-il alias Doge, the chamber is grateful of your testimony. However, the hearing of your testimony is not yet concluded. Therefore, you are invited to return again on Monday next week. Security personnel, you are instructed to take the two accused, as well as witness Kang Gai-il back to the detention facility, and have the two accused and witness returned to the courtroom on Monday next week at 9 o'clock. And Mr. Kang Gai-il, you are instructed to be